Ever get that like fluttery feeling right in your chest, when you're about to do a big presentation or something? Or maybe your hands get a little sweaty before a first date.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's anxiety saying hello. And get this, it all starts with these tiny little sparks in our brains. We're talking about synapses.
It's true. Think of your brain like a massive network of roads, all these different cities, and each city is like a different part of your brain, right?
Yeah, I'm picturing it.
So synapses, they're like the bridges and tunnels connecting everything, letting those signals travel between those cities.
So basically, it's how our brain cells actually talk to each other.
Exactly. And when there's a traffic jam on those roads or something's wrong with those bridges, well, that's when we see brain disorders start to pop up. That's why understanding these synapses is so important.
Which brings us to some seriously cool new research about this protein complex. It's called TrkC-PTP. Bit of a mouthful, right?
Right.
But honestly, this little complex could be a huge key to understanding how our brains create anxiety.
The really fascinating thing here is that TrkC-PTP is only found in these specific synapses, the excitatory ones, the ones that tell your neurons to like fire up and get those signals moving. It's the green light in your brain.
So we're not talking about the stop signals, just the go.
Exactly. And we already knew that when the genes that make this complex get messed up, we're talking mutations. It's linked to anxiety disorders, even autism. But here's the thing. Until now, we didn't really get how it all worked at like the tiniest level.
So it's like we had all the parts for a car engine, but no instruction manual to actually put it together.
Perfect analogy. But this new research, it's like we finally found that missing manual.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more.
So to figure it out, scientists used mice, the lab kind.
Our little science buddies, what did they do with them?
They bred these mice with specific mutations that messed with the TrkC-PTP complex on purpose. That way, they could see what happens in the brain when this complex isn't working the way it should.
So they're basically creating a model of what might be happening in the brains of people who actually deal with anxiety.
Exactly. And what they found was super interesting. These mice, their synapses were all disorganized. Their brain wiring was basically messed up, leading to communication breakdowns.
Disorganized wiring, so it's like their brains are sending like mixed signals, right?
Yeah, like crossed wires. Not good.
Definitely not good.
And it gets even more interesting. They found these mice had more silent synapses. Basically connections between neurons that are there, but they're not firing right.
Oh.
It's like when you're trying to make a phone call, but the line keeps dropping.
Oh, so not only are the connections messed up, but the lines are down too. Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. And that's exactly what they saw in how these mice were acting too. They were way more anxious, especially in new situations.
Wait, so you're saying just by messing with this one protein complex, they basically created mice that acted like they had anxiety?
That's the crazy part. It shows just how important this TrkC-PTPK complex is for controlling our anxiety. It's like they found this tiny little switch in the brain that has a huge impact on how we deal with stress.
Okay, that's wild. But how does knowing how it works in mice actually help humans with anxiety?
That's the million-dollar question, right? The cool thing is mice and humans, we actually share a lot of the same biology, especially when you're talking about the brain.
So by understanding this complex in mice, the hope is we can figure out how to make better treatments for anxiety in people.
Exactly. And it's not just about treating the symptoms, it's about getting to the root of the problem at the smallest level.
So no more just putting a Band-Aid on it. We're talking about actually fixing the problem. Yeah. That's amazing. But how would that even work?
So remember how we were talking about this research uncovering this mechanism? It involves something called phosphorylation.
Right.
Now, I won't bore you with all the science-y details,
Okay.
but just think of phosphorylation like an on-off switch for proteins.
Got it. So it controls how proteins act.
Exactly. And this research found that the TrkC-PTP complex, it directly controls the phosphorylation of a bunch of proteins that are super important for building and keeping those synapses healthy. When that complex gets messed up, it's like the whole system goes haywire.
Like a domino effect, but in your brain.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really exciting. By understanding this mechanism, scientists think they can create drugs that target those phosphorylation switches directly. Imagine medicine that goes straight to the source of the problem and fine-tunes those connections in the brain.
Wow, that's seriously targeted treatment.
Yeah.
Way beyond anything we have now.
It's a total game changer, like using a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer.
So instead of just masking anxiety,
Yeah.
we might be able to actually get at the root of it in the brain. That's incredible.
It really is, and it opens up this whole future of personalized mental health treatments. We're talking medications designed for your brain and yours alone.
So no more trying a million different medications hoping to find one that works.
Potentially. Imagine a genetic test that could tell if you're even prone to anxiety based on your TrkC-PTPs genes. We could step in early, maybe even before you have any symptoms, and use therapies that strengthen those synaptic connections.
That would be amazing. Early intervention could change everything for so many people. But like with any new discovery, I imagine there are some ethical concerns too.
Oh, for sure. It's like any powerful tool, we've got to be careful how it's used. Making sure everyone has access to these advances is crucial. And of course, avoiding any kind of discrimination or anything like that.
Absolutely. This technology has to benefit everyone, not just make existing problems worse.
Exactly. But if we're careful, this discovery has so much potential. Think of the millions of people dealing with anxiety and other mental health issues. This could change their lives.
It sounds like we're entering a whole new world of mental health, one where we don't just manage symptoms, but actually get to the bottom of what's going on.
It really is a whole new world. And by learning more about how the brain works, we can empower people to live happier, healthier lives.
Giving people the tools to truly thrive.
Yeah.
Now that's something I think we can all get behind.
100%.
Well, this deep dive into synapses and anxiety definitely has me feeling hopeful about what the future holds for mental health. And if you found this as fascinating as I did, I encourage you to keep exploring the world of neuroscience. Who knows what other amazing discoveries are out there just waiting to be uncovered.